The gentleman yields back. Ms. Escobar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Chairwoman Bass. I'm so grateful for this piece of legislation and for your leadership. I want to thank all the panelists who are here with us today. Mrs. Underwood Jacobs, I want you to know that we hear and we feel and we see your pain. And we are praying for justice for you and your entire family as well. Our sincerest condolences. Thank you for being here. Mr. Floyd, thank you for your incredible courage. I cannot imagine the strength that it took to be here with us today, but you did it. I want you to know that for those of us who are mothers, it tore us up to hear your brother call out for your mother. We heard him and we hear you, and we are going to continue to fight for justice for as long as we can. You know, people are marching in the streets all over this country and all over the world, marching for justice, marching to force us to rise to this moment. And it is our obligation and our duty to rise to this moment. I have heard from many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle their desire to work in a bipartisan nature on this bill and to achieve an outcome worthy of the American people who have entrusted us in this moment. And so my request today of my colleagues for the remainder of this hearing, for our markup next week, and for the day that it comes to the floor, let us focus on what is in the bill, not what is not in the bill. I've heard a lot of conversations from this dais about issues that are being debated outside of this room. Those debates are important, those debates are healthy, those debates are part of American democracy, but they're not in the bill. If we truly are going to come to a bipartisan agreement and provide for this country the justice that it is seeking, let's focus on what is in the bill. Mr. Butler, Professor Butler, we have heard much about the disproportionate impact that police brutality has had on the African American community. And we have also heard much about the fact that, well, let's focus on family, well, let's focus on God. And no one disputes that as a country and as a government, we should be making investments in education, investments in healthcare, investments in community. But in terms of really fully coming to grips with what is happening in terms of race and law enforcement in this country, we know that unarmed Black Americans were 5 times as likely as unarmed white Americans to be shot and killed by a police officer. To what do you attribute that fact? And your microphone, please, sir.
A legacy, Congresswoman, of white supremacy, a legacy of slavery and Jim Crow segregation, and then an evolution from the old Jim Crow to the new Jim Crow, where the stereotypes and the biases against people of color don't go away, but they just take different forms.
That's absolutely correct. Mr. Floyd, I want to ask you, as a Black man in America, do you live in fear that you will one day be a target as well?
Yes, ma'am. Every day I walk around, I ask myself, am I next? Am I next all the time? Because I don't want to do anything wrong to make anybody think that I'm doing wrong. So just try to live life and just have faith and hope everything comes out the right way. But basically, that's it. Just a Black man just trying to go to work every day and go back home safely. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. If we are truly to come to an agreement on this legislation, if we are truly to rise to this moment, we have to acknowledge the truth that is looking at us in the face every single day in America. We have to rise to this occasion. We have to do justice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.